The Dark Side of America's Founding Fathers, 12 Shocking Facts. The Founding Fathers of the United States are often revered as wise, visionary leaders who laid the groundwork for a nation built on principles of freedom and democracy. However, like all historical figures, they were complex individuals with flaws, contradictions, and decisions that can be shocking and controversial by today's standards. Here are 12 such facts that reveal the darker aspects of these iconic figures. Fact number 1. Benjamin Franklin's common-law marriage. Benjamin Franklin's relationship with Deborah Reed began in 1723, but they could not legally marry due to her estranged husband's disappearance. Their common-law marriage was a practical solution, reflecting the complexities of colonial legal systems and social norms. Franklin's numerous trips abroad, ostensibly for diplomatic and scientific purposes, left Reed managing their domestic affairs in Philadelphia. This arrangement, while practical, also underscored the gender roles and expectations of the time. Their marriage, lasting until Reed's death in 1774, was marked by mutual support but also by the challenges of Franklin's public life and personal choices. Number 2. Aaron Burr's secret affair. Aaron Burr's relationship with Mary Emmons not only highlights Burr's complex private life but also reflects the societal norms and racial dynamics of the period. Emmons, being of mixed Indian and British heritage, and Burr's decision to keep their children as secret speaks volumes about the racial prejudices and social hierarchies of early American society. This affair and Burr's efforts to keep it concealed underline the private-public dichotomy prominent figures like Burr navigated, balancing their personal desires with their public personas in a nascent America still grappling with its identity and values. Number 3. Benjamin Franklin's romantic engagements. Benjamin Franklin, a prominent founding father, was well known for his diplomatic genius and intellectual prowess, as well as his engaging personal life marked by numerous romantic engagements. Particularly during his tenure as a diplomat in France from 1776 to 1785, Franklin's charm endeared him to the French social elite, where he was rumored to have had several romantic liaisons. His correspondence reveals flirtatious exchanges with notable women, such as Madame Brillon and Madame Helvetius, illustrating his fondness for intellectual and romantic companionship. Despite his reputation as a ladies' man, Franklin's relationships were nuanced, blending personal affinity with strategic social networking, which often aided the American cause. His ability to maintain lasting friendships with many of these women suggests a depth beyond mere romantic conquests. Number 4. John Adams' family troubles. The personal struggles John Adams faced with his family, especially with his son Charles, offer a glimpse into the pressures and expectations placed on the families of prominent public figures. Charles's struggles were not just personal but were magnified by the public stature of the Adams family, highlighting the often overlooked human aspect of historical figures. Adams' decision to disown Charles was a dramatic but telling action, reflecting the era's harsh realities regarding family honor, personal responsibility, and the societal implications of failure. This familial discord presents a stark contrast to John Adams' achievements and reputation, reminding us that personal and family challenges affect individuals regardless of their public successes or contributions to history. Number 5. Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings, a complex legacy. Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and author of the Declaration of Independence, had a controversial relationship with Sally Hemings, an enslaved woman at his Monticello estate. Hemmings, who was also the half-sister of Jefferson's wife, Martha, has been linked to Jefferson through historical accounts and DNA evidence. In 1998, a DNA study significantly supported claims that Jefferson fathered at least one of Hemings's children, with further analysis suggesting he was likely the father of all her children who reached adulthood. This relationship has deeply impacted Jefferson's legacy, challenging historians and the public to confront the complexities of slavery, power, and personal relationships in the founding era. The Thomas Jefferson Foundation acknowledges the relationship between Jefferson and Hemmings, reflecting a shift towards a more inclusive and accurate portrayal of Jefferson's life and the lives of those enslaved at Monticello. Number 6. George Washington Adams' tragic fate. George Washington Adams, the eldest son of John Quincy Adams, the sixth President of the United States, was born in 1801. His life was marked by personal struggles, including battles with alcoholism, which were compounded by the pressures of living up to the Addams family legacy. His affair with a mistress, which resulted in a child, added to his tumultuous personal life. The scandal and his inability to manage his personal demons culminated in his tragic death in 1829. George Washington Adams' demise was not just a personal tragedy but also a public scandal that reflected the intense pressures and complex dynamics of one of America's most prominent families. Number 7. Founding Fathers' Alcohol Consumption. The Founding Fathers lived in an era when alcohol consumption was much higher than it is today. For instance, in the late 18th century, the average American adult consumed approximately 3 times the amount of alcohol that the average adult does today. This was partly due to the poor quality of drinking water and the common belief that alcoholic beverages were healthier. Figures like Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson were known for their appreciation of wine and other spirits. Their consumption reflects broader social norms of the time, challenging the modern perception of these individuals as purely stoic and puritanical figures. Number 8. James Wilson's imprisonment. James Wilson, one of the original 6 Associate Justices of the Supreme Court of the United States appointed by George Washington, faced severe financial difficulties despite his prominent position. His financial troubles led to his imprisonment for debt on at least 2 occasions in the 1790s. This was a time when debtors' prisons were a common solution for unpaid debts, reflecting the precarious financial systems and lack of protections for debtors, including those in high offices. Wilson's struggles highlight the vulnerabilities and human aspects of figures who played crucial roles in the founding and early governance of the United States, even as they shaped the nation's legal and judicial framework. Number 9. George Washington's dentures. George Washington's dental troubles are well documented, with him losing his first tooth in his 20s and having only one natural tooth left by the time he became president. Contrary to popular myth, his dentures were not made of wood but consisted of a variety of materials, including human teeth, animal teeth, horse and donkey, ivory, and metal alloys. Records from Mount Vernon, Washington's estate, indicate that he purchased teeth from enslaved Africans, a common practice of the time for those who could afford it. This fact sheds light on the grim realities of slavery and the commodification of human parts, directly involving even the nation's foremost founding father. Number 10. Thomas Jefferson's hypocrisy expanded. Thomas Jefferson's stance on slavery encapsulates the profound contradictions of his time and character. While he articulated a vision of human rights and freedom, his personal livelihood depended on the institution he philosophically opposed. Jefferson's writings, including notes on the state of Virginia, expressed a complex view of slavery and race, suggesting a belief in the inferiority of black people while simultaneously criticizing the dehumanizing effects of slavery on both enslaved people and slave owners. This duality is emblematic of the broader American paradox of espousing liberty while practicing enslavement. Jefferson's engagement in the slave trade, his treatment of enslaved workers, and the fact that he freed only a few of his slaves, further compounds the critique of his legacy, highlighting a dissonance between his public pronouncements and private practices. Number 11. John Adams and the Alien and Sedition Acts detailed. The Alien and Sedition Acts represented one of the first major tests of the First Amendment and civil liberties in the United States. John Adams, facing escalating tensions with France and domestic political unrest, supported these acts under the guise of national security. However, historians and contemporaries alike viewed these laws as politically motivated attempts to weaken the Republican opposition. The Sedition Act, in particular, led to the prosecution and imprisonment of several journalists and political figures who criticized Adams' administration, sparking a debate over governmental power and free expression that resonates to this day. The act's unpopularity contributed to Adams' defeat in the 1800 presidential election and their eventual expiration or repeal. Nonetheless, they set a precedent for the balance between security and civil liberties that continues to challenge American society. Number 12. Thomas Payne's remains were stolen and scattered. The saga of Thomas Payne's remains, stolen by William Cobbett with grand intentions that never materialized, underscores the tumultuous reception of Payne's ideas both during his life and posthumously. Payne, once celebrated as a founding voice of American independence, faced ostracization due to his radical views, particularly his critique of organized religion in the Age of Reason. Cobbett's failure to secure a proper reburial for Payne left the revolutionary writer's remains dispersed and his burial site unmarked, a stark contrast to the monumental legacies of his contemporaries. This odd chapter in Payne's story reflects the complexities of his legacy, revered for his contributions to independence and democracy yet marginalized for his outspokenness on religion and social equality.